ready.
Welcome to another episode of Buff in the Rough. Today we'll talk with Greg White about the American Beagle Club. What type of hound does it take to win today? Why are pro-style hunts popular? And a whole lot more. Help me welcome Greg to the program. Well, hey Greg, how are you doing?
Doing good.
Well, I'm super excited to have you on today. This has been one I kind of had circled on my calendar for a while. And so I'm super excited to have you on. I can't wait to start talking about the things we're going to talk about, and I know people will find it super interesting. But before we get started, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? For folks that don't know who Greg White is, can you tell us a little about yourself and maybe how you got into beagling and really anything else you want to tell us?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say that I'm a man of God. I love Jesus Christ. I got started in beaglers back when I was probably 14, 15-year-old. Been in and out of it ever since, and love being outdoors and hunting.
Well, Greg, what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Northwest Alabama.
Northwest Alabama. Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like it's just in your blood then, like so many of us.
Yes, sir.
well, what are some of your favorite dogs that you either have now or even from the past? Do you have any special dogs?
No, sir. I've always been one of the ones that donates instead of winning. But, my favorite line of dogs is the Stony Hill Gator stuff.
Stony Hill Gator. Okay. Well, let me ask you that. You've been doing this a while. How has rabbit hunting changed over the years? Or has it changed over the years?
I can't say that rabbit hunting itself has changed. Dogs have changed a lot. Dogs are getting bigger. But when you take and grow a chicken from freshly hatched up to eating size in 6 weeks, and then they're using the byproducts out of that to make the dog feed, the dogs are going to grow off bigger.
I've never heard that put together, but it makes a lot of sense to me. It really does. Well, Greg, tell us a little bit about, do you see any challenges out there for rabbit hunting in the future? Or do you feel good about the future? How do you feel about our sport right now?
I don't know about people, in other parts of the country, but here where I'm from, if you don't own a place, it's hard to get landowners to let you just run dogs. That's all I do anymore is just run dogs and keep them conditioned. And, it's just hard to find spots to run.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the same story if I ask people from every state in the country. I think that's probably a very similar story for everybody.
Yeah, no, we don't hurt the land. Even if somebody's with me and they drop a gum paper on the ground, I pick it up. I try to take care of people's spots. I've got a 45-acre running pen enclosed, and I expect people, if they in there, to take care of it like it's theirs and pick up if they see trash.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to ask you about something called the American Beagle Club. And when I first heard about it, everybody said, well, you've got to talk to Greg. Greg White is the man. So, Greg, could you talk us through maybe a little bit about the history of the American Beagle Club? Tell us whatever you want to share with us, how it got started, why it got started, and what your role is in that. Do you own it? Are you the president of it, or both? Or could you just tell us a little about the history of the American Beagle Club?
Well, it started, I think it was 21. We had the male-female shootout down here for the PKC Beagle Division. And, there was some stuff brought up about raising the fee from 25 to 30 and from 50 to 60. And, I was all in the agreement with it, but I told them, I said, we need to give $1 back to the hunters. And, it went off of that. I, talked and talked and talked till October of 22 at the, I think it was the Pro Series shootout up in Ohio. And, I never could get them to come across. So when I left Ohio that Sunday evening, I came home and I just started running dogs and, trying to figure out something that a person could do to have a good format,
Mm-hmm.
So in October, I started doing this, and then January of 23, I kicked it out there, anybody could run, no membership, no dog registration. We was going to run it the whole year of 23 and just see how people liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody seemed to like it, and it took off pretty good. January this year, we started registering dogs and making people become a member, and right now we're right around 500 dogs registered and pretty close to 300 members.
Well, let me back up and ask you, because I think you hit on it, but can we talk about it a little more? So kind of the why did you start it? You just weren't maybe satisfied with payback to hunters, or you weren't getting out of the current formats that are out there or clubs that are out there what you were looking for. So maybe a little bit about why did you start it and how is it different from what's already out there? So is it fair to say it's similar to PKC?
Some people say that it's like PKC. Some people says it's UKC made simple. It just depends on who you talk to.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So, within the American Beagle Club, you have how many different kinds of formats to hunt in?
We have the large pack. You have the hound and hunter, and in the very near future, I hope to have the head-to-head going.
Well, could you maybe for our pleasure hunters out there, and even the folks that are listening that are competition hunters, could you just just big picture wise, tell us the difference between like large pack and hunter and hound, and then maybe this future format of head to head? How are those different?
The large pack, if you show up and there's 60 dogs there, all 60 dogs go on the ground at the same time. It's more of a speed and drive type hunt. With hound and hunter, you hunt 4 dogs at a time, or 5 if you just have 5 dogs show up. And it's more, stracky dog, checks, and lines. The head-to-head is sort of the same thing as the hound and hunter, but it's a 2-dog brace.
Okay.
You just turn 2 dogs loose at the time.
Well, the rules. So on the hunter and hound format, where it sounds like it's similar. You said it was maybe UKC made simple or similar to PKC, but are the rules generally the same? Where you strike in your beagle, and then there's lines that you judge them for speed and drive, and then there are the checks and. So is that kind of how they score?
Yes, sir. You you turn your dogs loose with the first minute of the hunt. You've got a 1 minute rule for a excited dog. He can bark, and you don't have to strike him. After the first minute, the judge will say the minute's up. Well, you're supposed to strike your dog on or before the third bark. If you don't call your dog on the third bark, the judge is going to ask for a call and you have to have your dog struck in before his bark gets over on the 4th bark, or you're minused. Mm-hmm. Once dogs are struck in and progress has been determined, and then they break down again, the judge starts a 3-minute dead track clock. When 30 seconds is up on the 3 minutes, the judges say checks are available. we do it, because we're not out there with the dog. The dog that blows out of the check area, he gets a check. All right, say if you've got a crossing on a trail and that rabbit comes out and he turns straight down the trail, well, they blow through and get the line, but they blow the track up. Well, if that dog comes back to that track and he works it down, you got the 3 o'clock already started. Mm-hmm. And if he works it down that track, progressing that rabbit, you have to give him a check, because seeing is believing. You've seen the rabbit, you've seen the dog progress the track down that trail. Mm-hmm. But where the rabbit ain't seen, he has to get the check and blow out with it before he's awarded the check.
Mm-hmm. So are the rules very different from the American Beagle Club versus some of the other registries that hunt one of these hunter and hound type formats? Are they pretty similar?
Pretty similar. I mean, PKC, you score a line every minute. With ABC, you score a line every 30 seconds. With UKC, I think it's, 15 or 45 on a check. One to other of the two. Ours is 30.
Well, it sounds similar. I mean, from what little bit I know about it.
Yes. Yeah, they're all pretty much the same.
And the use of a couple of things. You mentioned the size of the beagle. So what's the limit on size beagles for American Beagle Club?
16 inches at a normal walking stance.
Okay. So up to 16 inches. Okay.
Yes.
And what about electronics? Everybody runs some kind of tracking system on their hounds today, and it seems like this might be a little different. Some registries, some hunting clubs allow the use of it while you're hunting. Others do not. Some registries won't allow you to use certain types of collars during the hunt, or you have to leave your controllers in the truck, and there's some different rules for different things. How do you guys handle that?
With us, you can have your TT-15s, 25, anything track and training. You can have them on the dogs. The receiver can be left on, and if a dog gets split from the pack, if you're standing there with the cast, you can tone it back to the pack. And we doing that because if a dog gets in trouble, you've already got your handheld on. Bang, you see, you can either tone it back to you, call timeout, they're too close to the road, so forth and so on. Mm-hmm. But, if the dogs are running and everything's packed up, you cannot look at your handheld during the cast, except when he's either split or timeout has been called.
Okay. So how do you prevent people from looking at it during the hunt?
Well, if you get caught looking, you're supposed to be warned. The judge is supposed to issue a warning, and then if he's caught again during that cast, he's scratched.
Okay. Well, that sounds fair enough. Do you accept dogs in your club that are already registered in other registries? How would somebody register with American Beagle Club?
Yes, sir. We accept dogs that are already registered, UKC, AKC, NKC, PKC, we do them all. Or if a dog is just a great dog that has no paper, we do single registration.
I'm assuming that you guys also have a show program too, where folks can show their dogs. Yes,
sir. We have beach shows. Hardly anybody does it, but we do offer it.
Could you tell us a little about just the structure? Because this is a new club. It's just coming off the ground. Do you have state races? Do you have a world event? Are you to that point yet? Because I know you got to grow. You got to grow it to get there. But how's it set up? Do you have people in each state? How many states are you in? Do you have leadership wise? There's you at the top, I'm assuming, and then do you have state representatives or regional representatives? Tell us a little bit about how it's structured.
Yes, sir. I founded it. or founded, and I took on two partners. Danny Berry out of Missouri is a partner, and Mark Land here in Alabama, he's a partner. And each state that has a club has a state representative, which is the executive board or the board members, and then you have Mark and Danny that is on the executive board with them. And we have, what we're doing is a top 16 dogs from each state that has a club will have a runoff. The dog that wins that gets its entries paid at the World. And then we have a state race anybody can come to also. And then, we had our first World Hunt last year, and we had 196 entries at the World Hunt. I expect this year to be bigger. This year we're having the Nationals with $2,250 added, and then we'll have the World. I'm not going to say exact number, but somewhere around $7,000 added. And then we're having a Youth World on Friday that has got $2,500 plus extra money for the youth.
So there's a separate category for youth at the World. How does that work? What is there an age? Like, what are the ages?
What we did last year was any age from, if you want to bring a 4-year-old, which that's mighty young, but I'm just saying up to I think it was 12-year-old. They would hunt together, and then 13 through 16 would hunt together. And then both would come together for the final four. And then they would run off for who would be the world champion. The younger class won the world champion last year.
Oh, I love it.
I really want to push the youth, because there's, that's what we got to be working towards. If we ain't got the youth coming on, we're just beating a dead horse,
Greg, you mentioned payoffs and payback and added money in this Beagle Club. That's kind of the payoff for winning. If you win your cast, do you get some of your money back, or how's it set up?
On the club hunt level, we do everything's a mandatory split. If you win your cast, you win money. And that way we have a Hound of the Year race, that the dog that wins the most money in a year, I can't remember, it seems like it's $3,500 maybe in a dog box. And then the opposite sex winner will get 15 or 25 in a Dr. Pathfinder. So with a mandatory split on all club hunts, that keeps the playing field level. That way you don't go to a big state hunt and run it off and win $700 or $800 and knock a man out that's been going to club hunts all year.
Greg, do dogs earn titles in this format, or do they just earn dollars, or both?
Yes, sir. From 0 to 1,000 is an open dog. When he wins 1,001, he becomes a champion. 4,001, he becomes a grand champion, and then 7,000 and above, he's a grand rabbit master.
So, one of my next questions is going to be, I think it's really interesting because when I heard about you and heard about this new club, I started paying attention to it a little more and trying to learn as much as I could, especially before I had you on. But how do you get your event winners posted so quickly? I mean, I've seen other folks in different registries, not picking on any one registry, but sometimes it takes a while, and then it's incomplete or there's something missing or something. I don't know, but you guys, you'll have stuff out. It seems like right after it's done, it's posted with pictures.
As far as our Facebook page, each club takes the picture and posts them themselves. Now, our web page, the leaderboard is messed up right now, and my grandnephew's DJ Glasgow, he puts it all in on a spreadsheet, and once a week, he takes a picture of it, puts on our Facebook page. We're having, like I say, we're a new registry. We're having troubles with our website as far as the leaderboard. I wanted it to be where we could put it in on a yearly standing, and it filter down to the male, female, and then filter on down to an overall winning, where you could go to the website and punch on that yearly standing where you got all your dogs there. Go to female, hit it, you got it. Or if you wanted to see what your dog won overall as a lifetime earnings, you could hit the overall winnings, and there's all the dogs with what they've won in their lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's growing
My
pains.
IT man's still working on it.
It's growing pains.
It's growing pains.
It's growing pains.
If somebody had told me in 22 that we would have been looking at 500 dogs registered in less than 10 months, I told them it was crazy.
Well, let me ask you a question about that. Why do you think it's so popular starting off like this? What are some of the things about the American Beagle Club that are drawing people into it, and maybe pulling from other registries too? I don't know. But why are people so interested in it? Why do you think it's so popular so quickly?
I have no idea. I'm just, like I said, I'm just blessed that the Lord has did it for me, because, NKC is a big, great format. UKC is a big, great format. PKC, all the formats are great formats. So I don't know why people are coming. I have calls that, speculate on what people's coming for, but I'll keep that to myself. I'm just glad they're coming.
I want you to help me through this because I've never really hunted in a format other than the formats that usually just hunt for a trophy or a ribbon or something, a certificate. I've never really hunted in what I would call like money type hunts, more like a pro style hunt, I guess. But how does that work? So if you show up at a local club hunt, and I won't hold you to the numbers because I know they'll change, but what could somebody expect an entry fee to look like? And then if they were to go and win their cast, what would that payback look like? Or can you give us an idea, like a ballpark?
On a $30 hunt, we do $68 payback. On a $60 hunt, that is doubled. On the $100 hunt, just if it's just a 20-dog club hunt, pro hunt, it pays $7.99 back.
So how does that work? I mean, does the club pick what level of dollars entry fees that they want to charge, or does that come down from leadership?
Yes.
Okay, so the club has a lot of power.
Yes,
in
sir.
that.
The club hunts are all 30s or 60s.
Okay.
They could schedule pro hunts. They decide what pro hunt they want to have. We offer the $100, $200, or $300 pro hunts. We're fixing to I think it's next week. I may be wrong, but we have a four-wheeler hunt coming up. It's going to be 24 dogs early, 24 dogs late for $300 an entry fee. Whoever wins it will get the four-wheeler. Second place is $2,000 and third place is $3,000. Each cast winner will get their $300 back.
I want, and this might just be an opinion type question. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer for it. But growing up, I had learned from my dad and his friends that they were very, I guess, suspicious of money hunts because they were worried that things would get corrupted if money was involved. And as I've gotten older and started having hounds of my own, I realized that maybe those opinions have changed for me a little bit because when I go buy a sack of dog food and it's 50, 60, $70 and a trip to the vet costs you a couple $100, or a dog box will cost you, 800,000 bucks, and I mean, you get the idea. This is an expensive hobby, and
Yes,
I think more and more people are perhaps drawn to a pro style hunt like this as an opportunity to to offset the expenses that they have, because they're going to probably, these guys that I know, they're going to hunt anyway. They love it. I mean, they're into it. But if the choice is given to possibly earn back some of the dollars that they've invested in their dogs, I think more and more people are interested in that. Is that what you
right.
see? I kind of don't want to lead you to answer it in a certain way, but what do you think about that?
Yes, sir. I see more and more of the people that, runs for trophies or stuff coming this way. But one thing I think is a big role in it. You go out on a 4-dog cast, the judge is there with you, he's a hunting judge. Well, that judge can't score nothing without a majority of the cast being with him. He can't run up there and, hey, my dog got that, y'all's is missed. It takes, if it's a 4-dog cast, it takes 3 of you to say that dog did that. If I mark a line, the dogs come through, and 2 of y'all didn't get to me to see where I marked the line at, we can't score it.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes a majority of the cast to agree before the dog is scored.
Well, Greg, you've been around a long time. You've been around a lot of dogs. What kind of dog? Describe what kind of dog it takes to win, and we'll do it by maybe a format. What kind of dog does it take to win in a large pack?
I've never ran large pack, but the feedback I get, you want a dog that just can get his head up and move a rabbit.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's compare that to the hunter and hound. What kind
With
of
the
dog?
hound and hunter, a different type dog can win at any time, depending on setting of the day. I've seen days where the dog could really push a track, had his day. I've seen days where the dog that gets his head up and blows through there can't hold a rabbit, so a good track dog comes through and cleans it up, gets his line. So I think, at any time, a different style dog can win a hunt.
Mm-hmm. Well, now that we're talking about that, what's your favorite kind of? If you could build the perfect dog for Greg White, what would they be like?
They would run a 10 and turn on a dime. I've been trying to breed for that for 10 years now. Rabbit dogs, I have no problem raising rabbit dogs, but I don't get the speed,
Mm-hmm.
I probably raised 40 pups this year, and I may have 2 pups out of the 40 that I'll keep.
I want to ask you another question about, and I know this is growing across the country. And did you start in Alabama and it's kind of spreading out from there? Where can people find events to attend in the country? Are you in more than one state so far? And could you maybe talk about where you are so far? And if you have any that'll be opening up in next year, could you talk about that too?
Yes, sir. We have 2 in Alabama. We started here in Alabama at the little club that I'm a member of. We started running it, and from there we got clubs in Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi. I'm trying to think, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, and that may be it.
Do you have any in the Carolinas, Georgia?
Oh, yeah, wait. I don't need to forget my buddy Denny Huck, North Carolina.
Well, it sounds like you're off to a good start. You've got certainly got scattered all over the country, really.
Yes,
I thought maybe it was going to be more regional, maybe just deep south, but no, that's a good map right there.
yes, sir. It's it's Kentucky has got, which everybody knows Kentucky is the Beagle State capital. There's more. I think there's more beaglers in Kentucky than they are probably in the rest of America put together. But there's about 5 or 6 clubs in Kentucky alone.
It's amazing. I heard someone say, I don't know, it's probably been a couple years ago. They were talking about coon hounds and coon hunting, and the state that either had the most hunts or produced the most big winners in the country. And my mind automatically went to, like, I was thinking Ohio or possibly Indiana. It was Kentucky,
Kentucky.
for this particular group, which I found fascinating, but makes a lot of sense. But I wanted to ask you another question, kind of looking into the future. So, Greg, where do you see this thing in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? I know you've got to be optimistic. You have to be pro growth. You've got to believe that you're going to grow. But where do you see yourself in a few years?
I have no idea. At the rate it has grown this far, I don't know. I mean, I hope it continues to grow. I want it to be a format where if you want to bring your wife and your 8 or 10-year-old kid and let them go out on a cast, that it feels safe for you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it grows to where everybody wants to run it. I know it won't never be that, but that's what I hope.
Well, that's the nice thing about having different kinds of formats available to people with different rules for some of these different clubs. There's something for everybody. Some restrict it to even classes within the Beagles themselves, from 13 inches, 15 inches, in your case up to 16 inches. So there's a little something there for everybody. So I think
Yes.
this is just another really good opportunity for folks to find a place to find what they like in a hound and what they like in a hunting format. This is just another option for folks. I'm really excited for you. But Greg,
Thank you.
as we kind of wrap up, and thank you for sharing so much about it. I think this is exciting. Anytime we can have things out there to help, especially with the kids, trying to keep kids interested, I'm all for it. But
Yes.
as we wrap up, is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have, or anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't covered so far?
The only thing I'd like to say, I mean, if somebody hadn't come and tried it yet, our world hunt is an open world hunt. You don't have to have no kind of money won, nothing. You just come and register your dog, become a member. You get a shot at winning $7,000 just like anybody else.
Mm-hmm. And now that you bring that up, how do people find out more about the American Beagle Club? Do you have a website, Facebook page? How do they find out more information?
Yes, sir. I have a Facebook account at the American Beagle Club. My weather radio went off.
Well, hey, we've had some crazy weather here. I'm talking, we've had hurricanes, tornadoes. I live close to the mountains.
Yeah.
It's just, we've had some weird weather the past month or so.
But we have a Facebook page called American Beagle Club, and then people can go to AmericanBeagleClub.com, and the web page is there. It's got everything. You can punch a button and you can actually see how much money that state has made in escrow, and all of that money goes directly back to that state for a pro hunt. For a state hunt or the top 16 runoff. It can be split. Mm-hmm. You can see how much escrow's in. You can see how much pro money's been made. It's mm-hmm. all there for the public to see.
Well, I appreciate the transparency. Unfortunately, we live in a world where there's not as much of that around as maybe we would like to see. So I appreciate you being so open about it. As we're talking today, we're in August, and so what's coming up towards the end of the year? If you wanted to promote something, you mentioned maybe the World Hunt. What time of year is that coming up, or some of your other hunts that are coming up, and what part of the country are they in?
The World Hunt, the Nationals, and the Youth World is going to be in Stoneford, Illinois, and that will be February the 26th, 7th, and 8th, and March and 1st to 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have that four-wheeler hunt coming up. I can't remember. We have so many things. Let me look right here. I think it is October the 25th, and it is in, how you say it, Salina, or whatever, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Well, perfect.
And it's October the 25th and 26th.
Well, Greg, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being on with us today. I look forward to seeing what happens with the American Beagle Club in the future, and I plan on definitely checking back in with you every once in a while and see how you guys are doing. And who knows, since we do have a club here in North Carolina, maybe I'll go swing by, or Tennessee. Maybe I can swing by and check out one of the events here the next several months. But I can't thank you enough for being on. I really appreciate you taking the time out to be with us today. And for folks interested in learning more about the American Beagle Club, contact Greg and check out that Facebook page or website and learn more. Get your dog and go hunt. Greg, thank you again. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Buff in the Rough. And remember to like and subscribe if you want to be notified when we have new content available. And please send comments and suggestions to buffintherough@gmail.com.